On Saturday, the Premier League starts and Newcastle United and Eddie Howe commence battle against Aston Villa. But who is Eddie Howe going to choose as his starting 11? Tough choices with both Sandro Tonali, Harvey Barnes and Tino Livramento. Plus it's been a great pre-season build-up for a crop of Newcastle players. So some tough decisions. In order to discuss who I think Eddie's going to put in his starting 11, we're on the top of Newcastle's Castle. It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here from Tyneside Life. We're at that time of year again, the beginning of the new season. Cannot wait for this one. We've brought 3 new cracking players. We've got a crop of players as well who are chomping at the bit to get some first team action as well. We've got 1 or 2 little injury niggles as well, and of course we're playing Aston Villa, who thrashed us back at Villa Park 3-0 last season. They've got Ollie Watkins playing for them, who's really dangerous as well. We drew 3-3 with them in the pre-season summer series there, but they've also bought Moussa Diaby, that phantom transfer pursuit who we were never in for last summer, and this summer we're going to need to keep an eye on him. Unai Emery's got them playing a really tight and dangerous game, so we're going to have to really keep a close eye on them. They play very similar to Newcastle actually. They're a close passing game, very progressive. They close you down very quickly. You could probably consider them as being our sister club actually. So this is going to be a cracking match. I do think if we get the selection right and we're on top of our game, that we will beat Villa on Saturday. But before we start talking about the details of who I think Eddie Howe's going to choose in his starting 11, let's look at a little bit of Newcastle's Castle for a couple of minutes in the history of this magnificent building. One of the oldest and most significant buildings that dominates the Newcastle skyline is her castle keep that sits on a crag, a natural defensive position that overlooks the mighty River Tyne. It has been a critical building in our turbulent and violent history with Scotland throughout the Middle Ages. This Norman castle keep is now a very popular tourist spot in the heart of the city. And how many cities can you think of where you can stand on top of a castle in the city centre and look at the city centre football stadium? Newcastle's Castle is where Newcastle gets its name, and when the stone castle, or New Castle, was built to replace the old wooden one around 800 years ago, you could say that this is where the story of Newcastle really begins. It's also around the same time that Newcastle's old town wall was built. Since that time, the castle has been a centre of law and order, a government office, where kings and dignitaries meet, where armies gathered, and where criminals were imprisoned. The old timber castle was built not long after the Norman invasion of 1066 by William the Conqueror's son. This timber castle lasted around 100 years, and during this period the town even fell into the hands of Scotland. Of course, this old timber fort wasn't the first fort here. In fact, when the Romans first settled here around 1900 years ago, they built a stone fort on the same spot around 200 AD that formed part of Hadrian's Wall. This fort was there to protect Pons Aelius, or Bridge of Aelius, Aelius being the family name of Hadrian. This first Tyne bridge, built by the Romans, sat on the exact same spot where the swing bridge is now. For around 350 years, roughly between 1300 and 1650, Newcastle saw intermittent warfare with Scotland, the Black Death, and even became an important centre of international trade, especially coal. The castle is now a heritage building of Grade 1 listed status, the same listed status as Leazer's Terrace next to St James's Park. In 2015, the city received a large heritage grant and the castle was developed into a more tourist facility that we can all visit and enjoy. This includes the Black Gate, which was built around 70 years after the completion of the stone castle. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't had a tour of Newcastle's Castle, you really must come along. It's only £10. That includes access to the Black Gate as well. You can have a look around there, and there's a museum in there. The ticket lasts 365 days all year round for £1 £10 fee. It's a bargain. If you haven't done it, come down and check it out. Also, a quick mention to Chris Bell and all the lads and lasses of RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. Thanks for watching, guys. Right, let's get into the formation and players for the starting 11. Of course, Eddie Howe will probably go for his same traditional 4-3-3 formation. And if we look at the defensive formation first, this all depends for me on whether Fabian Schär is injured or not. If he's available for selection, I think he'll go for his normal back four with Trippier, Schär, Botman and Dan Burn at left back. However, I've got an inkling that he's probably not quite ready yet. So I think Eddie Howe will go for a similar back four to what he played against Villarreal on Sunday, with Trippier on the right, Sven Botman, Paul Dummett, the centre half, with Dan Burn on the left. I know there are a few of you out there who aren't fans of Paul Dummett. For me, he had a great pre-season. He's solid, he's dependable. He doesn't put a foot wrong. He always seems to be there just to tidy up, to make the right decision, to make the right pass. And I've got no qualms with Paul Dummett being at centre half four. So for me, that's what I think the back four is going to be. If you'd like to see more videos like this and be notified the moment I release the next one, make sure you hit the subscribe button. So let's go into the central midfield, the three in midfield. Of course, Bruno is more than likely going to be starting in that centre three, even though he hasn't really been in good form from the back of last season through pre-season and against Villarreal. He was found wanting a few times. He's lost possession, but of course I think, and I'm hoping, that his head hasn't been turned somewhere else, that there's some sort of contract distractions going on, and that he finds his form again and quickly, because we need Bruno at his best when we're playing teams like Aston Villa. On the right, I know Eddie Howe traditionally likes to ease players into the team, but Sandro Tonali has showed how class he is. He's played 4 games for Newcastle United now in the pre-season build-up. I think he's ready, me personally. I think he's up to speed with how Newcastle United play. We've played 3 Premier League teams in the summer series. For me, I think he's good to go on that right-hand 3 in the midfield. On the left, it's a real tussle for me between Joe Linton and Elliot Anderson, because Elliot Anderson, of course, has had a brilliant pre-season. He's come back really fit, sharp and lean and mean, and he scored 4 goals to boot. It's a real tough one. Of course, you've got Joe Linton, a fan favourite, of course. He's a beast. You know, he wins a lot of battles in there. He does a lot of that dirty work. And he's not a bad footballer as well. So, you know, I think Eddie Howe is going to go for the safe option with the experience of Joe Linton. So I think he's going to choose Joe Linton over Elliot Anderson. But watch this space, because if Joe Linton isn't pulling his weight or he's picking up too many yellow cards, I think Elliot Anderson, when he does come in, I think he could be there to stay for a very long time. So that's my 3 in midfield. So now for the attacking front 3. Of course, Miggy has had a superb pre-season as well, and he scored a goal. So I think he's going to start in his natural position up on the attacking right-hand side. The centre-forward position is a little bit more complex, because we've got clearly Isak and Callum Wilson. Both had good pre-seasons. It's going to be tricky, because my personal view is that Isak plays better on the left wing, but I have a feeling that Eddie Howe is going to start with Isak in that centre forward position and see how it goes. But as we start in 11 against Villa, I think he's going to have Isak in that centre forward position, which leaves the left hand flank. And of course, you've got the obvious choices between Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon. Now, before the Villarreal match, I was erring on the side of Anthony Gordon. He is absolutely determined to make a success of Newcastle United and to be more or less in the starting 11 as much as he can. He had a great tournament for the under-21s. He was the player of the tournament. He scored a goal or 2, and the work he puts in, really fast, really skillful, good footballing head on him. Then of course Harvey Barnes, our new signing from Leicester, had a bit of a slow start, obviously, because he didn't catch the beginning of the pre-season, but against Villarreal he really grew into that game. What a tidy player he is. But you know what he's got as well, that Anthony Gordon for me is just lacking at the moment, is the end product. Harvey Barnes scored 2 goals. He looks clinical in front of goals. You feel like when he's in that shooting position that he's going to score. So for me, by a shade, I'm going to put Harvey Barnes ahead of Anthony Gordon up on the left. So there you go, that's who I think Eddie Howe is going to have for his starting 11 against Aston Villa, but you might have a completely different opinion. That's fine. I'd love to hear who you think is going to start against Aston Villa, but I'll tell you what, I cannot wait for this match on Saturday. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you like the format of this video on how I've done it, with putting a bit of historical context in with the location of filming a video like this, let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to do more videos like this. Anyway, till next time, I'll catch you later.